Hello everyone. Till now, for me, it is a wonderful journey, and I'm sure you guys are also enjoying it. If you remember in the last video lecture, we stopped at this slide, and I requested you to do your bit of research to find out how to start, how to start a design project. So, what is your version? In this video, I will be discussing the design process and approach behind a graphic design project. So let us begin. So if you look at any graphic design project, the realization happens in three stages, or you may say it is a three-layer of work. So if you look at the first layer, which is primary, and it talks about initial concept and layout. So first, once you got everything in place, you come up with your initial concepts and layout and create a very rough design. The second stage is finalizing the background and hierarchy. So there you work with the functional aspect, how you're going to guide viewer's eye, how you're going to communicate the message, right? And then the third is the tertiary one is final process and creating emphasis. So it is more focused on refining your design and then finding out the clues and ways how you can create a very powerful impact on user or the viewers when he or she is looking at it. However, these three stages comes at the final stage of the design. There are many other things that go into the design process, and one of the first steps after getting a project is setting up design brief. This is more about questioning the need and desire, understanding what is the subject matter, understanding the data, and then how big or small it is, into how many parts will the information can be broken. So understanding the hierarchy, understanding the relevance of the data, importance of the data in terms of segregating them into primary, secondary, and tertiary data. Also understanding who is going to read about the subject, who will not be reading about it. So who all are the audience? So these things plays a very important role for an effective outcome. And as we discussed earlier, culture and context decides the visual language of any design. That means one must do a proper background research of the subject before stating any ideation or before coming up with any design solution. I would rather say any probable design solution. So before you start even exploring the different design solutions, you should have a proper understanding about subject, culture, and context. But at the same time, along with thorough understanding of subject, culture, and context, designers' creativity and aesthetic sensibility play a crucial role. For example, selection of suitable fonts, color choices, and choice between photographic and illustrative imagery. All these decisions are going to be taken by the designer, right? However, the content, the conceptual idea to be communicated, the subject matter should be the driving force behind the design. So it is not like you influence the overall design, but the major driven force should come from the content, from the subject. Let us understand this with an example. So let us understand this through an example. Tell me, why does a publication look and feel the way it does? For example, a fashion magazine layout, color, font, and image choice would be very different from a stock market magazine. Do you agree? Or a brochure of a car launch would be very different from a brochure of music launch. Even when the subject is same, for example, if it is about music launch, the other factors such as reader, place of release, etc., influence the outcome, isn't it? Let us see one such example. These are the two magazine spreads designed with a theme of music. But the treatment to the page is very different in both cases. So if you look at this spread, the grid system, the font selection, image and color choices, everything gives a sense of classical music. The font, where you see a huge difference in the contrast and stroke, uh, is reflecting on the elegance, right? So the whole treatment, even the color, it has been used, which is very earthy tone, and it is going well with the concept of the whole uh, page. Whereas in this case, even without reading the content, one can say that it is about pop music. The color, the font, which is uh, sans serif font, in other case it was serif, the font, imagery, all complement the idea of the theme. So the question is, if the visual attributes are swapped between these two posters, will it work in the same way? I think no, and I'm sure you will agree with this. Because the content or the subject for the both posters are very different. And it requires a treatment which can go well with each content. And the same treatment with both subject will not work. Russian American photographer and designer Alexei Brodovich is credited for revolutionizing the magazine design. He did experimentation with image and text to bring out the emotions and create interest across the spread. So this is one example of his work where he has worked with the figurative typography, and then text has been changed. The shape arrangement had been changed based on the image which is there on this spread. So his works are very good source of inspiration, especially for people working in publication design. Now the question is, if there are so many components, how can we go about it? And then the key is break it down. Break it down into different sections while building the narrative in right flow. This segregation or breaking can be done in manageable parts, right, that are related to each other, by kind, by part to whole, by complexity, maybe based on chronological data, or by relevance. If you look at kind, if you know that if there are different kind of materials and information you have in your project, so do you want to segregate it and put it in a different sections based on its type? Or if you look at chronologically, and then the data which you have, it is in timeline, and you have to map the evolution pattern, you may like to divide them chronologically based on dates, right? The third one is part to whole, which is quite common in newspaper. how do you want to represent the information, right? So whether you want all informations, all the major stories to be highlighted on the front page, and then rest of the part should be placed somewhere else inside the middle pages. So this kind of strategies generally designer follow in newspaper or sometimes in magazine as well. The fourth is relevance, which has to do with the deciding the importance of information, whether working techniques are more important or a product, what has to be highlighted first. So that if you know that, maybe based on the relevance, whether you should uh, segregate them into based on their importance in the project, or based on the user's choices. If something which is very important and relevant, you may feel like keeping it first and then following it with the second and third other information. And the fifth one is complexity. So many times you can segregate data based on complexity, where you can have a simple things first and complex later, or vice versa. However, it will work better when you have a simple first and then followed by the complex information. And as a designer, you have to choose things wisely. And this choice can be in terms of selecting color, font, layout, etc. Many other things. And to have a better understanding of choice, homework is really important. This can help in terms of understanding the consumer and their need, understanding the market, understanding what is relevant and what is not relevant. And this homework should be followed by mind mapping in terms of building a thought cloud and finding out the keywords which are central to the design brief. Mind mapping stage should also focus on finding out the different design directions. Right? So once you do the mind mapping, you bring out all the related information about the area, and then you note it down and segregate the keywords which are very core to it, and those keywords basically help you out to do the ideation and fix the final design solution. Mind mapping should be followed by initial ideas, right, and sketches. And preferably this should be done using pen and pencil on paper rather than using a computer. The approach will provide more freedom in terms of translating your thoughts. So once the idea explorations are done, one should pick one of the best ideas and start working on the final design solution. Right? So there are a few more things to be taken care for a design to be more appealing and good looking. Right? So for example, whether you should use illustration or photographs, whether you want to communicate to the wider audience or whether your audience is very specific, accordingly you pick the images. If you want to have a very universal language, you might shift towards the abstraction. If you want a very literal meaning to be decoded, then you might use direct iconic images. Image cropping is another aspect which has to be looked into. So for example, if you look at the right image, this is an image from a shop, and if you have to highlight the quality of product in the shop and using it for creating the brochure or some other collaterals, using the right side image will not be appropriate. So as a designer, you should be very sensitive how to crop these images, what should go in the design and what is relevant to the design. Another thing is looking at color as communication. one has to also understand how one color behave and how its appearance changes based on background or nearby color. For example, the same blue situated on background of varying saturation values and temperature appears to change color, which is visible in your right. This effect of color context is called simultaneous contrast, right? We will discuss this in detail during elements of design module. Another thing is looking at color as system. So you have to decide your primary color, secondary color, accent color. For example, a combination of this black and white along with some contrast accent color is always soothing to your eyes. So you always make a combination so that you can make design a little interesting in terms of creating a visual impact. Or if the background color is changed, accordingly the primary, secondary or accent color also changes, right? Alternatively, a designer may use a general palette for all elements that is based on the color or theme uh, which is there in the photographs. If you look at this example, the spread, which is you have illustration in the left and then right side you have text, right? The color of the image and text complement each other, making it very harmonious and rhythmic. And this is how it works. All right, then. So we will stop here. This is what we have covered in module 1. And from next video lecture, we will delve deeper into the fundamentals of design, where basically we are going to cover different elements of design and their role in designing a very effective and powerful communication. Till then, bye and see you soon.